In this tutorial, I'd like to go over some of the commands for creating and working with surfaces. So I have some examples here and I'm just going to show them to you and I'll get into it. So I'm going to start up here first with this one first. And what you're seeing here is a line, but I want you to know that in Rhino, a line is also known as a curve. So keep that in mind. So I can use a line or a curve to generate a surface, and that would be using the extrude curve command. So let me show that to you real quick. I'll just pick it. And when I do that, I'm just going to start typing in and I'm going to type in extrude. And when I start typing, you can see that it's showing up on the command line. And I'll get to extrude. And you can see that there's a few commands, but I'll just click on extrude curve. And because I had that selected, you can see that I'm able to extrude it. And I can give it a height that I want, a specific number, or in this case, I'm just going to click like that. So it creates a curve, or it creates a surface rather. Apologies. So you have that. But I want to go back a little bit here, and I'm going to draw a line. I'm just going to type line here, and I'll just do this. And I'll turn ortho on, so it's a straight line, like that. And then I'll just select it. And when I select it, I have the gumball. And with the gumball, what I can do is I can click on the blue dot here, which will extrude it along the blue axis, which is the Z coordinate. And I just click and drag that up. And it's going to do the same thing. However, what's happening is if I take that surface and I move it, you can see that it still has the line left behind. Whereas in this case, when I extruded that curve, I can move that out of the way and there's nothing there. So just keep that in mind. I like using the gumball, but just it will leave the line behind, so just be mindful of that. Let me undo this, go back to the line. And what I like about the gumball also is that I can click on it, and then if I hover right here over the blue dot, you can see where it says that I have a lot of options. So open extrude is a control key, both sides is shift, and that's the one I wanted to show you. So if I hold down the shift key and then click and drag, you see how it's extruding along both sides. So that's nice. But again, it leaves the line in the middle and it's calling it a curve. So remember, line and curve are the same thing. So that's still left over and you can always just select it and delete, but it will generate that planar surface. All right, I'm going to delete that. And then I'm going to come over here and I'm going to draw a curve. And this is sometimes better done when you look at it from the top view. So let me switch over to the top view and I have a lot of objects. And you can see I have my curve here, but from the top, it looks two-dimensional because the surface is along a different plane. So I'm just going to type curve and enter. And I'm going to start the curve. I'm just going to click on the screen. I'm going to turn ortho off, clicking here, there, and I can do a few of these. And then I will go ahead and right click to terminate that command. And then I want to come back and click on the curve. And I want you to see that I have these control points. And what I can do is I can click on one of the control points like this one, and I can just move it along the XY plane like this. So I'm changing the shape. I'll pick this curve again and I'll click on this point and I can move it along the red axis or the green axis or both red and green at the same time like that. So you have that control. And I'll come back to my perspective view. I've got that curve there and then I'll select it. When I have it selected, I'll go ahead and extrude the curve. So EXTRUDE and then CRV, enter. So I'll extrude that and I can take it up. So I can generate some really interesting surfaces. So that's the extruding the curve. Now what I'd like to do next is use the edge surface command so that I can use edges to create a surface. And that's what I did here. So let me take this and delete it and just take these two curves. And I can't pick them both at the same time, and that's all right. And really with this command, with the edge surf, you may not want to do that. So I'm just going to type in edge and then SRF. for edge surface. Click on it. It says select 2, 3, or 4 open curves. I'm just going to select the 2 that I have, 1, 2, and enter. And it generates that surface. And this surface is flat, plain. And I can take that surface and I'll move it out of the way. And notice how I still have the 2 lines. So keep that in mind. But I move this out of the way because what I'd like to do next, as you can see on my examples over here, is that I took one of those curves up and it was still allowing me to generate the surface. So I'll go back to, let's say, this curve here, and I'll bring it up along the blue axis, which is the Z coordinate, Z axis. You can see how that one is now sitting up higher. And now what I'd like to do is repeat that same command, which is the edge surf. So EDGE and then SRF, edge surf, enter. Select my curves, 1 and 2, and enter. So it generates that surface. And it's almost like a sheet. It's very flexible, which is really nice. And I could have done that with 2 lines as well, but I decided it was better to try 2 curves and get some complex shape. So that's that command, the edge surf. And then the next one is planar surf. So what I have here is a rectangle, and all I have to do is select the rectangle, and then I'll go ahead and type planar. And then I see that I have the option here for the surface, SRF. So I select planar surface, and it generates a surface based on that plane. I'll take the surface, move it out of the way, and you can see that it's still left behind the curves. So just keep that in mind. It will be left behind. It will be there. And then something else I want to show you while I'm here is that I can draw lines. And let me do this right now. I'll just come over here and type line. And I'll start a line here. I'll turn ortho on, take it down this way. I'll draw another line. I'll just enter to draw a line here, this way. Another one from here, straight down there. I'm going to see if I can get it to line up. It's tracking. Good. I click on it. And then another line from this endpoint to that endpoint. Okay. So I have 4 individual line segments. Now, very much like other programs such as AutoCAD, I can take these and bring them together. I can join them and then create my surface just like I did with this rectangle. So all I have to do is select all 4 of them like that, and I can join. I'll type JOIN, enter, and now I click away from it, and then I click on it, and I have joined them to create one single, as you can see over here on the type, one single closed curve, which is similar to this surface, which is a closed curve, but this one I created using the rectangle command, and the rectangle command is right here. So just wanted to point that out, what you can do. All right, so those were straightforward curves, and now I want to do something a little bit more, let's say complex, a little more sophisticated. So I'm going to go back to my top view, zoom this out. Actually, I'm going to type ZEA, enter. There we go. And then I'll pan down here, focus on this area. So I generated this curve, and then I also generated the circle, and I want to use both of those to then create a surface. So what I did was this. I just typed in curve, and I'll start, let's see, down here, and let me turn ortho off, and I'm just generating a shape. I'm not going to match that one. I'll come close to it. I'll do this, that, come over here, and then I'm going to type in C for close. And that way it becomes a closed surface. So I type C and enter. And that closes it. And I can always come back and I can select my points like that one and move them around, adjust my shape like that. And from here, I could create my planar surface. So just like I did before, I'll select here and type in planar surface, and it will generate that surface. But instead of doing that, I'm going to undo, go back to my top view, and I'm going to draw a circle right here in the middle. So I'll just type in circle right here. And then I'll go back to my perspective view so I can see this. And then I'll type in planar surface again. And then it says select planar curves. So I pick this curve and then I pick this one. And then I enter. So it generates that shape. Now I could generate the shape and then I can come back, draw the circle, and then trim that out. So that's possible too. But I thought this would work well as an example. So then from here, I went ahead and I started to play around a little bit. And this is bonus information. So from this point, what I decided to do was then to extrude this surface. So I'm going to use the command to extrude my surface. So I select this. It is a trim surface, and I'm just going to do an extrude. And I'm going to select extrude surface. And notice how it's taking that surface, and I'm just going to click right here. So it's created an extruded surface, and that's nice. But then I went ahead, and let me move this over here. And I decided that I was going to play around with it a little bit more. And notice how it left behind my closed curves, and that's okay. So what I'd like to do is just focus on this object in all four of my viewports. So let me bring those viewports back, and I'm going to type ZSA for zoom selected all in all the viewports. Enter. Okay, that's the shape I want. And I really want to focus on the right view here. So I'm going to zoom out. And what I'm going to do now is draw a curve. So I'm going to type curve like this. And I'm just going to draw it up here because I want to be able to pick these points. And then I right-clicked so I can terminate the command. I can take this curve and I will move it down now like this. I can still see the points. And then I'll take the points and I'll start to play with those. But I want to keep them, or I want to keep my curve within that shape. So I'm going to take this point now and bring it down. I'll take this point, bring it up. And I'm really trying to create an exaggerated curve here. So the next thing I want to do is use this curve to trim my shape. So I am now going to type trim. I'm going to select my cutting object, which is this object here, and then I enter. And then I'm going to select the object to trim, and I really want to take this top portion out, so I click on that. And you can see how it trimmed that shape based on just that one curve. If I zoom out of my perspective view, look at where the curve is. It really was nowhere near, but it still used it to trim my shape. So I don't need that curve anymore. So I can just go ahead and I believe I was able to delete it. So it's gone. Okay. And now I'm going to come back to my perspective view. So I have a real interesting shape here. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to really close this off. And to do that, I have to use my blend surface command. So I'm going to type in BLEND and then SRF, enter. And now it says select the first edge. Let me just orbit here. And I'll pick this as my first edge. My second edge will be this one here. And then you can see how it's trying to connect those two edges. And then I'll go ahead and enter. Now, when I do that, I've already made some adjustments as I was practicing, but you may get some very different results. For example, you may have your button set to the tangency 1 and 2. So you're going to get something like this. So what Rhino is trying to do is it's trying to blend these two surfaces based on what it's assuming you may want as a final result. So I'm not sure where you will find these buttons selected, but you notice as I click on them, they're changing and I'm getting some really interesting results. But what I want to do, or what I did, was I put everything back to position 1 and then also number 2. And that basically creates a flat surface right there for me. And that's what I wanted. And then I go ahead and click OK. So that's all done. And now I'm just going to take the object and move it. And when I do that, I just did this on purpose. Notice how it's not connected. So I need to bring all this together. So before I had done a Boolean union. I'll do that again here. So Boolean union, and it will union these. I'll just use a window, a crossing window like that, and then enter. And it has brought them together. If I move them, notice how it works. And then it shows me, it says open poly surface. Okay, so I'm going to undo that because, well, I went too far. Let me redo. 1 second. I'll just type it up here. Okay, bring it back. All right, so this is now back to being these two separate objects. So I'm going to bring it back in. And instead, this time, I'm just going to select both of them and I'm going to type join and enter. And when I join that, it gives me similar results. And this one now is a closed solid poly surface. The last one was open. The main difference is not important here. The fact that it's just all one is what matters to us, and that's the result that I wanted. So I just wanted to show you how I can generate some really interesting shapes. I'm not saying you have to do this. I'm just introducing that to you as part of your toolkit so that as you're creating your objects, you can use these different commands to achieve these results. Okay, thanks.